What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Connor, and Ryan in the Week 0 podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tired defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna pick six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Porter.
Hello and welcome to the first official episode of the Quack 30. Probably ain't going to take 30 minutes. Not a lot to talk about here because the Ducks dominated this weekend. All right, let's get right into the business. Let's see if I can actually get this correct. Oh my goodness, this is not a good start. Let me see. Share screen. Come on now. All right. Here we go. Straight into the juice. The Oregon Ducks absolutely throttle Portland State. Not a lot really to talk about here other than the fact that this offense is legit. And, I get it. It's Portland State. We're going to get it from everybody. You're playing FCS school, this, and that. But 81 points? I mean, look how many scoring drives that is. Absolutely insane. Bo Nix, 7 drives, 7 touchdowns, 23 for 27, 287, and 2 touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns through the air. Had a very efficient day. Bucky Irving, he only had 4 carries for 119 and 2 touchdowns. He only touched the ball, only got the ball handed off to him 4 times. Scored on 2 of those, had 119 yards. Absolutely incredible day. Troy Franklin looked incredible. Let's look at more of the box score here because I love these stats. It's hard to read on here. It looks like it's all laggy. But something I want to point out is this incredible running back room that the Oregon Ducks have. Jaden Lamar, true freshman, 8 carries, 51 yards, and a touchdown. Dante Dowdell, 8 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown. 2 true freshmen right there. And then obviously Noah Whittington did not play today. I believe he is injured. Some sort of injury. Dan Lanning wouldn't really disclose what was going on, but he basically just said we're going to be smart with our players and not play him. Essentially saying that Portland State's cupcakes, we're not going to play any players that are a little bit banged up. So with that being said, Jordan James got the second string, pretty much the start. I mean, Bucky only 4 carries. And, incredible stat line there. But Jordan James had a very efficient day, 10 carries, 86 yards, 3 tutties for the strongman back. Not a guy that's going to bust big ones. He did have a 36-yarder, which is the longest of his career. But he is going to be a touchdown machine, absolute touchdown machine for the Ducks this year. My biggest surprise and the guy that I'm actually super, super excited for this season, Gary Bryant Jr. He came out there. You saw something. Just heard something crazy. Anyways, he came out there. He got the start. 7 catches, 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns. Troy Franklin, obviously, 7 catches, 106, and 2 touchdowns. These guys were both absolutely legit. Tez Johnson, kind of disappointed. I was hoping they would get him the ball a little bit more, just 3 catches for 41 yards. He's very talented with the ball in his hand. And then Trayshawn Holden, only 2 catches, the transfer from Alabama. I was hoping we would see a little bit more from Kenyon Sadiq as well, the true freshman from Idaho. Just 1 catches for 9 yards. Did really well. Almost had that touchdown. He kind of like dove into the pylon. Almost got the touchdown. Other than that, not a whole lot from any other guys. I was hoping to see a little bit more from Jurion Dickey. Didn't get to see any catches from him, but I was actually surprised that he played because as far as I knew, he was still a little banged up. Let's see. Tez Johnson did have the fumble. Bryce Betcher. This guy, I'm so stoked for Bryce Betcher. He was one of the best players for Oregon baseball this year when they went to the Super Regionals. Kid's an absolute stud, and he got a fumble recovery on the kickoff. Super stoked for him. He also had, look at that, 4 total tackles for Bryce Betcher, who got the start. A lot of people don't think that this is actually going to be the start as Ryan hops in and he's muted. I don't know why he's muted. I don't know why he's even in here. But anyways, is my mic not working? Is something going on here? He's probably talking crap, huh? Are these Oregon Ducks Quack? Now I'm looking at the comments. We will be getting a Texas Tech preview after I do the review of this game. Something I want to point out for Portland State, they have a quarterback, man. And I know it says, 5 for 14, 35 yards. He had the touchdown, the single touchdown there. But he could run the freaking football. 6 carries for 53 yards doesn't seem like a lot, but still having nearly 150 yards total rushing against the Ducks is definitely impressive on their end. But he's going to be good at that level. I think he's going to be really, really good at that level. Somebody that I'm actually probably going to be paying attention to a little bit more moving forward. But other than that, not much more to talk about. I will say as well, look at these quarterbacks. I know it's Portland State. I know it's all this stuff. But look at these quarterbacks. Ty Thompson, it's the best I've ever seen him look as an Oregon Duck. 7 for 8, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Threw that wide open touchdown. It was a great throw on the run. For a touchdown to Gary Bryant Jr. Super stoked for him. Austin Novosad stepped up, came in the game, 3 for 3, 13 yards. I was really looking forward to seeing Austin Novosad in this game. And he looked like he ran the offense well. 81-7, not much more I can say about the game. Super stoked for this fight, by the way. But moving on to the Texas Tech preview, only 10 minutes into this thing. I knew it wasn't going to be too long because there wasn't much I could really talk about on the review of the Oregon Ducks. This offense is just so studly. And Will Stein coming in, Will Stein's very first game as an Oregon Duck offensive coordinator, 81-7. That's impressive. I don't care on what level. Portland State still has athletes, man. I'm so excited for this offense, especially to see them against decent teams. And I thought we had a decent team. Hold the phone. Let me get rid of that as I get over here back to this. I thought we were playing a decent team next week. I did. And I do, however, I do think Texas Tech isn't bad. But what is this? Wyoming is not supposed to be a good team at all on any measure. I don't really understand this. As you can see, Tyler Shuck had a good game. He played well. 31 for 47, 338, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But you look at this, 33 carries for 93 yards. That's just not going to cut it against really anyone. As you look at over here, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns for Wyoming. They had a lot less pass yards, but when you have a run game like that, you're going to do well in college football. You need a good run game in college football. I don't care what anybody says. South Carolina saw that against North Carolina. You need a run game in college football to win games. And they had, I believe, 31 carries for -2 total yards rushing. And that's why they lost by 2 touchdowns. But overall, this was a really good game. This is a crazy stat for me. Losing 2 fumbles, still ending up winning the game. They did obviously have the 1 interception. But as far as a preview for the Ducks versus Texas Tech, we're going to Lubbock. It's going to be a different environment than obviously Autzen Stadium. It's going to be a different environment that Texas Tech was just in Wyoming. They're going to be electric. They're going to be loud. I believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Texas Tech beat Texas in Lubbock last year. They're an electric crowd. It's going to be a crazy environment. But as far as this goes, and for how many yards rushing Wyoming had on Texas Tech, I just think Bucky Irving, and then if Noah Witt plays, oh my God, Riley Leonard is insane. I'm sorry, I got distracted. He's absolutely nuts. Is he going to score? He freaking scored. That was crazy. Anyways, speaking of rushing, as Riley Leonard runs a 44-yard touchdown against the Clemson defense, Oregon has one of the best running games in college football. We saw that very clearly. And if they're allowing 171 yards against Wyoming, I'm looking for 300 from the Ducks. Now, I want Bo Nix to pad his stats as much as possible. I wish he could have done it a little bit more last week, even though he went, 7 for 7 in touchdowns. I wish we could have saw that a little bit more. I just think this run game is going to be way too much for Texas Tech, and I could see this being an absolute blowout. in this one. A lot of people, including myself, thought that Texas Tech was a top 25 team. As clearly they aren't a top 25 team. Wyoming isn't anywhere near a top 25 team. So you lose a game like that, it's really tough. Defensively, they had to have fallen apart. I didn't watch too much of this game. I believe I was watching some other games, but I think Oregon is going to absolutely dominate this one. If Andrew Peasley is doing things like this to this Texas Tech defense, Bo Nix is going to have a field day. Bucky Irving is going to have a field day. It's going to be a rough day for Texas Tech, and they're going to have to start thinking about some things because this team wasn't supposed to be bad. We look forward at Texas Tech's the rest of their schedule, obviously against Oregon, Tarleton State. So they have potential that they can potentially win these next 4 games after the Oregon game. I know that Houston's decent. Baylor is god-awful. We found that out. Very evidently, Baylor is god-awful. We'll hear a little bit more about that Tuesday on the Week 0 podcast show. But they're god-awful. Houston is decent. They ended up beating UTSA. I think UTSA may have beat themselves a little bit in that game because Frank Harris didn't have a great game, but I do think Texas Tech can take these 4 games, probably lose this one. I could see him beating BYU. I could see him taking down TCU. Now TCU might have the worst defense I've ever seen from a Power 5 team in college football. Obviously, that is exaggerating, but Colorado made them look like a high school defense, and Shedeur Sanders absolutely went crazy. Again, we will talk about that more on the Week 0 podcast show, but I could see him winning that game, maybe losing to Kansas, losing to UCF for sure, and then losing to Texas late in the season. So that's 5 losses, 7-5 to end the season. I would have probably thought 9-3 before that loss to Wyoming originally. But 7-5 is just not a very good year for the Red Raiders if that's how things go. I think Oregon's going to absolutely dominate from start to finish, and it's not going to be close. I do want to see a little bit. I think we're going to see more of the starters from Oregon. As I kind of talked about earlier, I think on defense, I don't think we started all of our best guys right away. I think there was a lot of young guys that got playing time early on in that game, because unfortunately Dan Lanning knew that Portland State wasn't legit, and he wanted to see a handful of things from them as we watch Bucky Irving go yard. Just walks in, and look at that effort by Bo Nix. Follows him the whole way in. Bo Nix is just that guy. Look at him hustling behind his boy. Bo Nix is just that guy. I love Bo. I'm so happy we have him. But anyways, I knew this show wasn't going to go to 30 minutes. It is the Quack 30. It's supposed to be 30 minutes, but I don't have much more to talk about. I did say in our group chat, as far as Oregon goes, I did say in our group chat that I think, and I know a handful of other people think, that this will be the Week 4 college game day game. Colorado moving forward, they just have Nebraska and Colorado State. I think they're going to end up being undefeated at the point that they play Oregon. I think Oregon, if I had to guess, Oregon's probably going to be 11 or 12 by the time they play the Buffs, and I think the Buffs will probably be 19 or 20 by the time that happens. And you know how much college football, everybody is so obsessed with Deion Sanders and everything that he has done over there. Rightly so. I think he's, I think he deserves it after that game. But I think College Game Day is going to be at that game. I think it's one of 2 games that College Game Day is going to be at for the Ducks. I think they're going to be at that Colorado game. And then 3 weeks later, because we have a bye week right before Washington, I think they're going to be in Seattle for this one. I think Washington could potentially be undefeated by the time. Yeah, so Washington will likely be undefeated by the time they play Oregon. They're probably going to be around the, I would say, 7-6. I think they'll be around 7-6. I think Oregon at that point, if they beat Colorado, take down Stanford after the bye week, I think Oregon could probably be like the 8-9 position. College Game Day is for sure going to be at that one. I guess I don't really know what other games are being played that week. I guess I can look at that while I'm on the show still. Let's see. Week, was it 4, 5? So it's week 7, I believe. See what other games we got going on. Texas A&M, Tennessee might be a good one. I don't see College Game Day going to that. Notre Dame, SC. I don't know, man. I mean, I think they gotta go to South Bend for that one, especially if Oregon gets the Colorado game. I think they gotta go to South Bend. It really all depends. I mean, potentially with how we're seeing Duke play tonight. Duke is playing really, really well as of against Clemson tonight. Duke could win that game, and I know Ryan doesn't want to hear that, but Duke looks really good tonight. And if the Irish come out playing like they did against Tennessee State, because they looked sluggish. Maybe they were just sleepwalking because it is Tennessee State. But Duke could win that game. Anyways, I'm going on to something else. I'm not talking about the Ducks anymore. I got to get back to the Ducks. But yeah, I'm hoping that we get that game day game. Either way, I think it's going to be one of those two games. If not, it's for sure going to be against USC because we haven't played USC since 2016. That's going to be a massive, massive game. And we have potential. I mean, there's potential that Oregon and Oregon State could both be undefeated by the Civil War, which would be the craziest game in Pac-12 history. If that ends up happening, it would be so cool if both of those teams could be undefeated by that point. I don't see it happening, but hey, you never know. Anyways, my friends, my fellow Oregon fans, my fellow college football fans, this has been the Quack 30. Didn't quite get to 30 minutes, but I did my absolute best. Talked about Notre Dame a little bit. Didn't want to do that when I came into this thing. But anyways, guys, that's the Quack 30. And I hope you all have a good night and go Ducks.